What's up, guys? Welcome to the Courtside Soundoff podcast today. I'm Josh Evanoff. He's Angel Ortega. It is fucking fight week, boys. Let's go. UFC 249 from the ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida. The card's happening. It's actually, we're here. We're recording the day before. Weigh-ins have already happened. Everybody but Jeremy Stephens made weight. He missed by 5 pounds. We're not really going to, I guess we'll get around to that fight. But we have so much on tap for you guys today. UFC 249 predictions. We're going to talk about, potential news down the line with the heavyweight strap, potential pay-per-view buys for the card. We're going to preview next Wednesday's card, which is Smith versus Teixeira. We talk about the main and co-main there and some other fights. A little bit of boxing news and some random stuff to end the show. KBO baseball. I'm an NC Dinos fan. Y'all can't stop the Dinos. But first off, we're going to start UFC 249. I'm here with the greatest co-host of all time, Angel, the GOAT, Ortega. And we're going to talk about all these amazing fights. But firstly, we're going to start off on the main card. Obviously, this is main evented by Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje for the interim lightweight title. Co-main event, Henry Cejudo, Dominic Cruz. There's a lot to talk about here, but like I said, we're going to start from the main card, and we're going to go through that, and then we're going to talk about, fights on the prelims to discuss. Starting off at the bottom, the fight that I personally have no idea why it's on the main card. I understand that Greg Hardy's a name, but I feel like it would be better served for him to probably be on the ESPN portion, considering that's free, because I don't think anybody's going to see Greg Hardy's name and buy him for the pay-per-view. Greg Hardy, Yorgan De Castro. Greg Hardy, last time out, lost to Alexander Volkov. Kind of had an up and down UFC career. I remember when he came into the UFC, lots of people thought he was just going to wreck shit, and he's had some good wins, but also he's had some bad losses. The Volkov loss, he's got, outpointed, and then the Alan Crowder loss was just really, really bad. But he's taking on Yorgan De Castro. Yorgan De Castro is, he's a lot of power. He's an undefeated guy, but he's much smaller than Hardy. I've gone back and forth on this one a lot, but I'll throw it to you, Angel. Who do you think wins the main card opener?
My God, I got my boy Greg Hardy coming back. Well, not my boy, but we got Greg Hardy back. I probably shouldn't word it like that. But you know who we got.
You got your boy. He's your boy, Angel.
Yeah, I personally know Greg Hardy. Me and Greg Hardy go out for the drinks on the Saturday nights. It's for the boys.
Were you there when he beat his girlfriend? Were you the...
No. I was not. I hope I'll never be there for anything like that.
Allegedly beat his girlfriend. I don't think he was technically found guilty, so I don't want to get sued. But yeah, he is opening up the main card. Like I said, Yorgan, he's a decent opponent. I believe he knocked out Justin Taffa last time out. Justin Taffa's looking like a pretty good heavyweight in his own right. Yorgan, again, undefeated, but I've gone back for this board on this one a lot. The big thing to me is if Greg Hardy can use his distance and his reach really well, because he is much bigger than Yorgan De Castro. I think he has 4 inches of height and something like 8 inches in reach or 7 inches. Like, it's ridiculous. I've gone back and forth on this one a lot, but ultimately I just think Yorgan's going to give one, to take one. And I think he might even stop him. He has lots of power. That Justin Taffa knockout, Justin Taffa came in swinging wildly. He got put down with the right hand and got put to sleep. I think Greg Hardy might go in there swinging wildly to try and get the finish, and I think he'll be put out for the first time in his UFC career. A bit of a bold prediction on that one. I'm pretty sure Yorgan's a decently sized underdog, but I'm going to say Yorgan De Castro in the main card opener. Second fight that I don't know why is on the main card. I kind of get it because Jeremy Stephens is a name at featherweight. But he is struggling. He's struggled a lot lately. Like I said, whenever we started the podcast, missed weight by 5 pounds earlier this morning, which is the fight's continuing. He's losing 30% of his purse. He weighed in at 150.5. He is winless in his last 4 fights. Obviously, the TKO loss to Aldo, the loss to Zabit, and then the eye poke against Yair, and then he lost to Yair. Calvin Kattar, on the other hand, since coming to the UFC, he's looked pretty damn good. Beat Andre Fili, beat Shane Burgos, who's turned out to be a really good fighter in his own right. Lost to Renato Moicano, no shame there. And then he beat Chris Fishgold, knocked out Ricardo Lamas, and then he had a great fight against Zabit in November, where the general consensus was if that fight went 5 rounds instead of the 3, like Zabit said, like he demanded the fight was going to be 3, he absolutely would have won. He put a beat down on Zabit in that third round there. I'm going to take Calvin Kattar here. I just like his boxing. His pure boxing is some of the greatest that we have in the UFC, regardless of weight class. He's the bigger guy. I believe he's going to have more of a reach than Jeremy Stephens. And I just like him to go out there, and I think he's going to put on a great performance and maybe even get a late finish. It's really, really hard to finish Jeremy Stephens, but if Stephens goes in there swinging wildly, he's kind of more of a brawler. I don't think he really swings wildly, but he's more of a brawler. I think Kattar's going to pick him apart, honestly. Who do you got?
I took Calvin too, man. After I saw that missed weight this morning, I was not having it. Also, the fat win-loss does not make him look any better.
If Stephens loses this one, and obviously we're both picking against him, do you think there's potential for him to be cut? Because
he'll be 28-18. Granted, we did have at one point Artem Lobov. Well, I guess we still have Artem Lobov and Andrei Arlovsky. So, who knows? But if the fight's good and it's fun and exciting for the UFC, they probably won't get rid of him because people will buy this card and be like, "Oh my God, this man makes chaos happen." You know what I mean? So they'll have a reason to keep him around.
Yeah, I think one more loss. Like I think he's gonna lose to Kattar, but I think after that, if he doesn't win, then I think he'll be gone because that would be 6 in a row without winning. That would pretty much be unheard of to be kept in the UFC at that point. The next fight, and this is we're building up to the big three. Like I like a lot of the prelims. In fact, I like every single fight on the prelims more than I enjoy the two on opening up the main card. But the big three of Ngannou Rozenstruik, which has title implications, and then the two title fights we're about to get into. The third one being Francis Ngannou, heavyweight's most dangerous man. I predict him when we said who's going to be champion at the end of the year. I said Francis Ngannou. He is so dangerous, and it's looking like he's hitting his stride. Like honestly, like he got the title shot against Miocic, I think 2 or 3 years ago at this point, and he was a bit raw. Like he didn't have much cage time since then, and since that kind of really bad fight against Derek Lewis, which we were all super hyped for, he has looked damn near unstoppable. Like it's not even close. Like he went out there and faced Curtis Blades, who before and after that fight, Curtis Blades has been damn near unstoppable in his own right, and he beat him up. He knocked him down like 3 or 4 times, TKO inside of 45 seconds. Cain Velasquez, former heavyweight champion, making his return, knocked him out in 26 seconds. And then Junior Dos Santos, another former champion who was winning a couple in a row, and he's knocked out in 1 minute and 11 seconds. And he's taking on Jairzinho, who honestly, Jairzinho reminds me a lot of young Francis coming into the UFC. He knocked out Junior Albini, he knocked out Alan Crowder, and then he faced the two guys that actually got Ngannou a title shot back in 2018. He knocked out Arlovsky and he knocked out Overeem. That Overeem fight, he was losing up to the last 5 seconds, which was kind of a Hail Mary shot to win him the fight. There's a lot to go into this one that to kind of look at, but honestly, it really just comes down to two big men swinging meat. I'm going to take Francis Ngannou here. I think he looks – you see interviews with Ngannou. I know there was a guy who interviewed him works for Courtside Press, and I watched that interview. And he seems pissed off, like with all the fight cancellations and all of the starts and stops, because Ngannou's been wrecking fools for a while now, and we're still having to wait on Stipe Miocic and the run around with him and Daniel Cormier. He seems pissed off. And it looks like he's going to go in there and take it out on poor Rozenstruik. And I fully believe he's going to get a finish inside of 1 round. That's the way I feel about it. Who do you got? I'm pretty sure you feel like relatively similar.
Okay, let me say this. I want to clearly, I'll state this right now. I am picking Ngannou, but I do want to make a case for Jairzinho, and that is, the man is actually like a world-class kickboxer. Like if you go look back, he has a great record. He put in the time. That was his bread and butter for the longest time, and now he's in the UFC. And look, he's actually I was watching some clips. The guy has a nasty counter, and he sets up. He has a great counter punch. I was paying attention to any bad overhand throw or anything. I see he takes advantage of that, and if he can manage that distance and set himself up for some good counters, or just break Ngannou down in some way with leg kicks and find a way to counter him, I feel like Ngannou could have set himself up for something good. Now, not to say Ngannou isn't good in his own right. But Jorginho has something there, and I feel like, I'm picking Ngannou, but not. I feel like I do personally have a certain level of hesitation, and I could be absolutely wrong. I mean, we could go into that first round, and Ngannou could hit him with a 1-2, and Jorginho is out. But you gotta give the man respect because he called out Ngannou, and no one else in that weight class is calling out Ngannou. Actually, DC is probably not going to defend that title if he comes back, just to probably avoid Ngannou, which is probably a smart choice. So I give a lot of respect to Jorginho, no matter what good happens in this fight. But I think I think and I truly believe he'll do a good job. And if he wins, oh my God, what a story, right? How quick and how good would that be? I think I predicted Ngannou as heavyweight champ by the end of the year as well. But obviously, with everything going on, that might change. I still think this should be an interim title. I know that's kind of quick for Jorginho, but who cares? It would have been Ngannou over him. And either way, it would have been great because it's like he beat Ngannou to get it, and and Ngannou should be next to fight it for it, so it just makes sense. So it just would have been the perfect storm. But I still think there's a case for Rosenstruik. I think he could still show up and put on a good fight. So I feel like people are actually really sleeping on him, and no matter what, I think he'll be an entertaining heavyweight going forward.
You actually bring up like a lot of good points, and something I'm glad you brought up is Rosenstruik's kind of his path to victory and the counters. It's like a good point that you brought up, specifically of that, like that left hook, that short left hook. He's really fucking good with that. Like his kickboxing is his bread and butter, and I could see him potentially chopping down the legs of Ngannou in one round and just staying on his bike, and then in the second and third coming out and blasting and trying to put him away, because Ngannou, we all know that he got slimmer. Like that's kind of my thing. Francis Ngannou was getting slimmer because he weighed in for that Stipe fight straight up at 265, and like he had to cut weight to get down there. Apparently, he walked around 285, and then the Blades fight, the Velasquez fight, he was weighing around in the 240s, and now he's back up to 262, I think. So he's putting that weight back on, potentially tire him out as the fight goes on. That's a decent strategy for him. That, like, his counters are really on point. That left hook, the one that put down Arlovsky, knocked him out inside of 30 seconds. Like, the dude has like really good power and really good counterpunching ability. So I could see him kind of hopping on his bike for the first round, and then the second and third coming out and blasting on him, chopping him down with leg kicks. I think there's a really good path to victory for him. But that's just not the way I think it's going to go. I got Ngannou. I think this fight could easily be for an interim belt, and you brought that up. Here's the thing that a lot of MMA fans hate interim belts, and I've noticed that, and I get it. But here's the thing, and the UFC said as much of this in court because they were being sued about like fighter pay and stuff. Belts don't mean anything. They are not sanctioned by the athletic commission. They're a prop given by the UFC to whatever the fighter they want. They can give it to whoever they want for any real reason. They don't mean anything. They're just a signal to say, hey, this guy is the number one. You guys got to chase him. That's it. That is the whole reason why title belts exist for the UFC, and they've said as much in court. So I don't want to hear anything about ruining the sanctity of the belts and ruining the importance. And also, Stipe Miocic has said he may not even fight until next year. So that would be what? By the time he fights next, it could be even like a year and a half. There should be an interim belt at some point. I guess we're going to get into this later on. It's one of the next topics after we get done previewing. But regardless, I guess I just kind of gave away my feelings already, but whatever. We'll still talk about that. The next one up, the co-main event I know personally my most look forward to fight on the card. I know, Angel, we talked about this off air a lot. Henry Cejudo, Dominic Cruz. I guess I'll let you start because I'm someone who's super into this fight, and I'm going to go super psychoanalysis on it. But I want to hear your opinions. I know you're somebody who's like studied a lot for this one.
Well, I wouldn't say studied a lot, but I definitely put in more time than I usually do whenever it comes to most of the stuff. I know that sounds bad, but you know what I mean.
No.
Yeah. Oh boy, what a fight! I mean, was it almost 3.5 years, right, for Dominic Cruz, right? And he's back.
Yeah, December 2016.
First of all, what a story we have here with Henry. The 16-year-old going to the Olympic, in training, winning Olympic gold, living only with his mom. That whole story, being raised with that family. Making his way, into the UFC, fighting DJ, losing to DJ, and fighting him again and beating him, beating maybe arguably, the greatest in that weight class, if in some people's eyes, maybe the greatest of all time in MMA. And now, he kept riding that way, beat TJ on steroids. No, I'm just kidding. He wasn't on steroids. What was he on, like EPO or something like that?
EPO, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they caught him for, anyway.
Yeah, a former title holder, beat Marlon Moraes in I'd say devastating fashion. I didn't think he'd do that to Marlon. Dominic Cruz, one of only 2-3 men to beat DJ in the world.
Yeah.
Early on in his career, but still did it. Gave Uriah the hardest time throughout his career every time they fought.
One of the greatest rivalries ever.
Yeah. And, he's come back again, to fight Henry. And he's kind of like, people think, people call him, what is it, like the Godfather, the main guy of this weight class. And now he's back to fight Henry Cejudo. And if he were to win this, I mean, he would be in that GOAT territory, but also for Henry, catching these names, winning fight after fight, and I wanted to talk to you about this on the podcast, here in a second, once we're both done with our predictions. If Henry wins this fight, does Henry officially almost GOAT himself as one of the greatest in this weight class, if not the greatest already at this point, if you were to beat Dominic Cruz? And I'll leave that for later. I'll let us, do our predictions first. But, we're talking about in Dominic, like I looked him up, man, and his footwork is so crafty. It's so technical, and it works so good, and his slips are amazing. I mean, he's an absolute unit. His level of just IQ is beyond me. It's absolutely puts me in awe when I watch it. I mean, it's and it's not like boxing. It's not like any of that. It almost feels like it's just strictly unique to MMA. And there's something that I appreciate so much about that because it's so good. And then we got Henry, a guy who, on the feet has just been crazy recently. And, always has that second, thing in his back pocket, his wrestling. His Olympic gold wrestling. As much as, he puts us, with the cringe and everything, he's an extremely talented individual. He's showed so much to us. And at this point now, this is probably, if his second biggest challenge of his career next to DJ in the second time around. He has a lot to put on the line here. I'll say this. Henry has everything to lose in this fight because Dominic came back after 3 years. And Dominic has everything to win in this fight. A man who has nothing to lose is a dangerous man. And with me saying that, you would maybe think I'm picking Dominic because of that. But I'm not. I'm still going to pick Triple C, Henry Cejudo, to be the champ and submit himself for GOATed status.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to unpack there about what you said and all. You set the backstory, because normally I'm the guy who kind of sets the backstory and sets shit up. I don't have to set anything up, so thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, by the way.
Yeah, I don't have to say shit. I can just get into how the fight I think it's gonna go. Henry. I think we've all been pretty amazed and with like his rise from like just another guy who lost to DJ to being a two-weight champion. And like I saw somebody bring it up. If he were to beat Dominic Cruz, his last 5 fights would look like Sergio Pettis, very good win. Demetrius Johnson, GOAT win. TJ Dillashaw on drugs, amazing win. Marlon Moraes, amazing win. And Dominic Cruz, that's another amazing win. That is arguably the best 5-fight streak, if he beats Dominic, to happen ever in UFC history. Like, just overall, like, not even UFC, MMA in general, because, all the other organizations that exist, that's fucking ridiculous if he were to do that. And you brought up if Henry wins, would he insert himself into the GOAT conversation? First of all, I think you can make a case for Henry to already be there. Like it might be a bit early, but I think either guy that wins gets in there. I don't think it's exclusive to Henry because if you got to look at Dominic too, because Dominic he right now he's 22-2, former WEC champion, which he never lost the belt. He unified it with the UFC belt. He has wins like Faber, Benavidez twice, Ian McCall, TJ Dillashaw, um, just a bunch of names on his resume. Like, and obviously Demetrius Johnson, and DJ, like who went on to be, I put him in my top 2 of greatest of all time. So like and even then, regardless of my opinion, he's considered the greatest by tons of people. In Cruz, he beat Johnson, and then he tore everything in his body. He took 3 years off from the cage, comes back, beats Takeya Mizugaki. He got stripped of his belt, and then he comes back to fight Dillashaw after tearing his ACL, I think, again. So he takes another year and a half off, comes back, beats Dillashaw, defends the title against Uriah Faber, who's one of the greatest of all time at bantamweight, loses it to Garbrandt, and then he had more injuries, man. He's been out of the cage since then. So coming back after 3.5 years off, and only having like 4 to 5 weeks to prepare for this fight against, a two-weight world champion, if he wins, he's right there. Like, I think you can make a case for Cruz already being in the greatest of all time conversation, regardless of win or loss. But as for the fight itself, I look at a lot of things. Firstly, Cejudo's hands and his technique is improving rapidly. After he lost to Benavidez and after he lost to Johnson, because before that, he was just kind of a wrestler who didn't have much going for him. He would just get guys to the ground and try and out-grapple him, trying to get into advantageous positions where he could try and finish the fight with his wrestling. He worked on his striking a lot. He's kind of adopted more of a karate stance. Obviously, Eric Al-Bajrin from his team doing a great job in just improving his striking rapidly. And he's a former Olympian, so he's going to pick that shit up. The thing is, to me, like, I think Dominic Cruz inherently has the most awkward and great movement in MMA. I think you look at just how he moves around the cage. It's Tyson Fury-esque in terms of slipping punches, and he has really, really awkward movement. Like, if I were to parallel it to another sport, I'd say he's very Tyson Fury-esque, but even then, there's nobody in MMA that has anything like it, so I have to parallel it to him anyways. Except Cruz is he's very long, he's very lanky, and also he's a very good wrestler in his own right, so I don't think the wrestling is going to be a major key. And people forget Cruz is a great scrambler. Not only is he's a good wrestler, he's an amazing scrambler in general. Like he had some great scrambles with Cody, with TJ. I don't think the wrestling's going to play a big role for Cejudo. Some people just think he's going to go out and try and wrestle fuck him. I don't think that's going to be possible. And then like here's my big key, and here's this thing is huge to me. It's surprising to me that people don't really talk about this enough. We saw the stare downs today. For the first time, we saw those guys kind of go nose to nose, face to face. I say nose to nose. Cruz towered over him. Like Cruz is a guy who used to fight at lightweight. They say it's 4 inches of height on him. I guarantee you it's more. I think Dominic Cruz they say he's 5'8". He looks more like he's 5'9", 5'10" to me. He has 69 inches in reach. That's for sure. 5 inches over Henry. And to me, Dominic Cruz is phenomenal at fighting shorter opponents. Garbrandt was right around his height. And, the only other time he lost was whenever he was like 22 to Uriah Faber. He's very good at fighting smaller guys. And whenever he fought DJ, he ragdolled him. He threw him around. And I think he's gonna. I don't know if he's gonna do it. I don't know if he's gonna ragdoll him, but I think he's gonna beat Cejudo, man. I think he's gonna stay on the outside. I think it may even be a boring fight at times, but I think Dominic Cruz, after 3.5 years off, after all of the injuries, is gonna make the greatest MMA comeback of all time. So, yeah, that's. I'm looking forward to that one so much. I think it's gonna be an awesome fight. And then finally, the main event: Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje. All the starts and stops of the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight have finally led us to here. Tony looking to become a second 2-time interim lightweight champion of the world. Justin Gaethje, 3 knockouts in a row. Tony Ferguson, 12 wins in a row. Angel, the main event. this one's gonna be chaotic. This is gonna be one of the greatest. I think this has potential to be one of the greatest fights of all time, especially of 2020 at least. Who do you got?
I'm still picking Tony Ferguson. Simple as that. Still picking Tony. Tony is, man, he's this wild man. He's a dangerous man. Might be the most dangerous man on earth, and might continue to be the most dangerous man on this earth after tomorrow night, because obviously anything can happen in that cage. Oh boy, I mean, we're talking about, I heard someone say that Tony isn't the best technical striker in the world, or well, obviously not in the world, I don't know, but isn't the best technical striker, and I would have to disagree with that. I think Tony's unorthodox way makes him like technical, but in his own way. Being unorthodox, being weird, is dangerous. Just any guy who is just different from normal, because you train against normal. You don't train against weird. You don't train against a specific, because you can't recreate that Tony Ferguson style, when you're sparring. You can't recreate that because that's unique to him as a person. You can't think like him. You can't fight like him because that's him. And I think that in and of itself poses just a big threat. And then his wrestling, his jiu-jitsu, I mean, it's all there in that back pocket. It's scary. He's a scary man. He's a bad man. He'll hit you from this angle, that angle, from down here. He'll throw a head, and his head will be over there. He'll throw a leg kick, and he'll already be throwing another punch from a different angle. His angles, his choice of hits are all weird and unorthodox. They'll make you question every movement you make. That's why I decided to pick Tony. And I mean, he's on that win streak for a reason. He continues to entertain us. We need that fight versus Khabib. I want it to happen.
I also want that fight against Khabib. But wouldn't it just be the most MMA thing ever if Justin Gaethje just comes out and knocks out Tony Ferguson, just sending that fight off into the distance where we're never going to get it? Wouldn't that be the most MMA shit of all time? Like, honestly, sometimes I just sit and wonder, like, this sport, I feel like part of the reason why people like it is just because it's so chaotic and so much crazy stuff happens that it's not supposed to happen. This fight for me, there's not a whole lot of the technical aspect of it. Like, I went into a bit of the technical stuff with Cejudo and Cruz, but obviously this stuff has technical stuff involved. But like, you brought it up that like Tony Ferguson is not the greatest striker. He's not the most technical guy, but to me, his pressure. He's very good at two things: pressuring and cutting off the cage. Tony Ferguson just traps you. Like, he stops you in the corner. I watched the Anthony Pettis fight earlier, and Pettis, who's normally a pretty good guy, he's a guy who gets pressured a lot, but he's pretty good at keeping them off of him because he throws fire back. But after probably 4 minutes of the first round, he was just out of gas, and obviously he knocked down Tony to start the second. But after that, like, he was done. Like, he was out of it. And similar things for like just other Tony Ferguson fights. He just cuts off the cage. The Cerrone fight too. Tony surprisingly started like a bit slow in that one, and Cowboy had a good first round, which people forget. But then once he kind of got back into his groove, he cut off the cage and he started bludgeoning him with his elbows, getting in close, cutting him, and just doing all sorts of crazy shit that you're not supposed to be able to do in a cage. And Justin Gaethje, on the other hand, people bring up Tony's stamina as like a big deal. Justin Gaethje, it's hard for me to see him getting kind of thrown off his game by Tony Ferguson. Justin Gaethje's a guy who you can't break. You just can't do it. His stamina is just incredible in of itself. Like, that guy, like I said, people bring up Tony Ferguson, and they act like he has this incredible cardio that nobody else can match. I think two guys can match in the division, and I think one is Khabib Nurmagomedov, and I think the other is Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje, his stamina is incredible. He just goes, like, he looks like he's dead tired a lot of the time. And yet there he is. Like, he looks tired, and yet he's still throwing like insane combinations. He's not stopping throwing at all. Like, he doesn't slow down for a second, regardless of how he looks. Like, he goes 100 all of the time. And he has incredible power. And specifically, as of late, it's looking like he's starting to get the technique down. The technique of specifically the right hand. He's loading up on that fucking thing in the first round. He's taking dudes out. Like, he really is. He's doing a better job of cutting off the cage. He's not getting into as many wars. Like, he's willing to go, like, especially the Barboza fight. He was willing to go to war with Barboza, specifically with leg kicks, which I could see a big deal to me would be leg kicks, especially Tony Ferguson. Not that long ago, you guys got to remember, tore everything in his right leg. and kind of rushed back to fight against Pettis last year. So like he maybe kind of like will attack that leg, and I feel like I could have a big effect on it potentially. I got a weird feeling that Justin Gaethje's gonna win. I got a really weird feeling that Gaethje's gonna win, but I'm still gonna go with Tony Ferguson. But I think my big concern for Tony is the fact that he's cut weight twice in the past 3.5 weeks. He's getting older. I believe he's 36 or 37, and if he were to win the belt, he would be the oldest lightweight champion of all time. Which says a lot about those divisions, just because it's a young man's game down there. Heavyweight and light heavyweight and all that stuff. You could be an old champ, but not of those smaller divisions, man. Like he's getting up there in age. So yeah,
Look at
man.
Manny, bro.
That's true. He's the exception. He's the exception. He's not the rule.
I know it's a MMA, but he does still. I just
Yeah,
want to bring that up.
I know what you mean. Yeah, man. I'm really excited for that one. I think that fight's gonna be amazing regardless. But I think part of it is also I think some guys got thrown off by no crowd. If you watched UFC Brazilla, some guys I felt like they got thrown off by having no crowd because like I think 9 of the first fights went to a decision. You could just tell they kind of felt weird. Tony Ferguson doesn't give a fuck, bro. He fought in the tough house. He is going to go balls to the wall. He doesn't care there's no crowd. Some dudes kind of ride off that energy, and I've seen, baseball is being played in Korea right now, which we're going to talk about near the end of the show, just because I think it's going to kind of funny. But I saw a pitcher was talking about like how they ride off the crowd's energy. I feel like some dudes in MMA ride off the crowd's energy. No, not Tony Ferguson. He does not give a damn. So yeah, I'm gonna go Tony here. I think potentially a late stoppage, maybe even a submission, late in the fight. I think he's gonna have to go through hell to win, though. I think this is gonna be no easy task for either guy. To kind of move on from the main card to the undercard, if you were to kind of pick out one fight to kind of talk about and explain why, what would be the one fight you're most looking forward to on a stacked undercard? Because this undercard is probably one of the greatest I've ever seen.
People don't understand how prepared I am for Hall versus Jacare Souza. No one understands. No one will ever understand. But I'm prepared. This man lived in his goddamn gym, guys. That's a whole another level of dedication right there. I respect the hell out of that.
You think he gets it done? Like stoppage, maybe?
I mean, if he did it being Uriah Hall fashion, right? Wouldn't that be crazy? Maybe, but I mean, anything can happen. I mean, Jacare is no bum. He's a great fighter in his own right. But man, Uriah Hall, that's a bad man there still, and he can still get it done. He heard Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa is going to be fighting for the title here. He gave him a hard time. Uriah still has it, man. That fat losing streak, but he went. What wasn't a fat losing streak? He had losses, wins. It was a bad mixture. He strung a couple together recently. Has a loss in between, but probably could have got the win in there. And I think he has a bit of resurgence in himself. I think this is good. He'll have a 4-fight win streak, and I think it'll be split. Because there was a loss in between, but I'll call it a 4-fight win streak for the sake of conversation.
Fair enough. I think that fight's really interesting too, because I feel like Uriah. You brought it up. He's hitting a stride. Like he's starting to get to that point where I think we're just seeing him start to evolve. Like he knocked out Jocko, and one of the most amazing comebacks. It's definitely the most forgotten MMA comeback I've ever seen, because he was getting his ass kicked in that first round. He knocks him out in the second. Paulo Costa, that fight was amazing, and Paulo Costa just decided to beat up on Uriah Hall's dick, and the referee didn't do anything. That was some terrible refereeing job, and I don't remember who was the ref for that one, but they did a terrible job there. That one really was pissing me off. He knocks out Bevan Lewis, who's proved to kind of be a decent prospect in the UFC. I remember he was pretty young coming in. I think he was like 27 in that fight. And then, I know he beat Daquan Townsend. He was an undefeated guy coming into the UFC. So, nice win there. And then he beat Antonio Carlos Jr., he's looked pretty good, at least going into that one. I know he lost his fight before that to Ian Heinisch. Before that, he was on a 6-fight winning streak. So, that was a good win for Hall, too. I think him living in his gym, for a guy that kind of, there were people that doubted his dedication, he's dedicated 100%. He's living in his gym last month. Jacare is 40. He's lost 3 of his last 4. I think he loses 4 of his last 5. I'm taking Uriah too. But there's a lot of fights to talk about on the other card. Vincente Luque, Nico Price, one I want to shout out. That fight's going to be a war. Fabricio Verdum's coming back against Alexei Oleinik. I'm also going to shout that one out as well. But the one I want to talk about, Donald Cerrone, Anthony Pettis. This is a fight I mentioned on Twitter. This is the one that has arguably the most stakes out of any on the card. This is not a fight for a title. It's not a fight for a ranking. It's a fight for relevancy. These guys have both been up and down. Specifically, as Cowboy specifically, it's been all down. Since the Ally Quinta fight, he's lost 3 in a row, all of which were bad stoppages. The Tony fight was fun, but he got really messed up in that second round, and the doctor called it off. Justin Gaethje knocked him out inside of 4 minutes, and Conor McGregor knocked him out inside of 40 seconds. And that was only 4 months ago that he got, he broke his orbital and broke his nose against Conor. So he's coming back. He's facing Pettis, who wasn't that long ago, guys. You guys got to remember. You almost forgot. This time last year, we were talking about Anthony Pettis as a title contender at welterweight because he knocked out Wonder Boy. Nobody knocks out Wonder Boy. He got the performance of the night for that one. He faced Nate Diaz, had a good first round, but then he just pressured him to oblivion, and he ended up losing the second and third. Lost via decision. And then Carlos Diego Ferreira won. That one he just didn't show up for. But regardless, Anthony Pettis lost 3 of his last 4. Donald Cerrone lost 3 in a row, and also technically 3 of his last 4. This is a fight for relevancy. I'm going to take Pettis. I think he's got a bit more in the gas tank. I think he's a fast starter, and Donald Cerrone's not. I mean, Cowboy, he's never been a fast starter, and Pettis, he stopped in the first time around, relatively quickly. I think he's going to do it again.
For sure.
So the other thing to kind of talk about, another storyline coming out of this card, the UFC is apparently having internal discussions on if they want to either strip Stipe Miocic or if they want to have the winner of Ngannou versus Rosenstrike take on Daniel Cormier for the interim heavyweight strap. Angel, yay or nay? Any interest in that fight potentially, or even stripping Stipe or any of that stuff?
I do, man. I do. I mean, like I worded it. I know for a fact, one, Stipe and DC is gonna be a while from now, just because of what's going on. 2, for Stipe's situation. I'm pretty sure Stipe had an injury, had to recover from that. On top of that, Stipe's a firefighter. He's a hero in the real world, and it's no hate to him for having to deal with this stuff, but then at the same time, it kind of slowed down. Some fights that probably need to happen here soon, or probably should have happened a little bit ago. And 1, probably the rematch against him and DC. And then 2, probably the title defense after that. So I really do want that strip to happen. 1, because I know if DC wins that fight, DC is not going to defend the title. He'll probably retire. And this kind of just makes it an excuse to see DC fight one more time, and maybe he goes out on a W or on a loss,
Yeah, I think I want to see that DC Stipe fight for the 3rd time. I think that would just be an awesome fight. But at the same time, we got to get this division moving, bro. We have had, listen, DC and Stipe have been in the title scene since 2018, I believe. 2017, UFC 226 was the card that they first fought on, and we're here at UFC 248, and we're still dealing with this shit of just the division. They've only fought each other, minus a Derek Lewis fight that happened on 2 weeks' notice. So it's really fucking frustrating. I feel bad for everybody involved in that division. Jairzinho, Francis, Curtis Blades. I feel bad for everybody involved there because it sucks because there's no easy answer. I say the easy answer is just strap. I said they should have had an interim fight for Ngannou Rosenstrike. I said that 2 months ago. But regardless, if they want to do DC Ngannou Rosenstrike winner for an interim belt, I'm cool with that too. Because listen, Stipe's kind of gone back on it after he got bashed for it. But he said, before he got the fan criticism, that he may not even fight this year. That if he does, it'll be late in the year. So listen, man, I'm not hating on Stipe, but at the same time, the division has to get moving. This is still a sport. This is still something that is a massive logjam and that needs to be fixed and needs to be solved. I think this easy solution is Ngannou Rosenstrike winner versus DC for an interim strap somewhere down the line. Anyways, moving on. UFC 249 is the only sporting event. In fact, it's the only live event, to my knowledge, happening Saturday night. Obviously, the prelims will be broadcast on ESPN, but the main card will be broadcast on ESPN pay-per-view, ESPN Plus pay-per-view, excuse me. We've heard all the talk about, this will do massive numbers, but we haven't really seen to that execution, because we've seen television ratings across the board during this whole pandemic have been majorly down. Nobody's just in the mood to watch anything. But we've been 2 months without live sports. Do you think that UFC 249 does over 500,000 buys? I think a million is shooting way too far up there. So I'm going to say 500,000 is a base.
I'll say yes. I'll say yes, one, because there's nothing else. And two, we have, the MMA fans who have been deprived of MMA. Deprived. It was taken away from them. And now they have it again.
That's fair enough. I know a lot of people, I've gone back and forth on this a lot, because obviously UFC Brazil, I thought it was going to do massive numbers, and I think it did only 600,000 live viewers, which is one of the lower ones of UFC on ESPN, but that one was a bit different. It was in the middle of the day, because UFC they wanted something to put broadcast in the middle of the day, and they could show it later at night as well. And then that one they moved that on like a day's notice, the time too. I was like really confused. I was writing for that card. I was like, what the fuck? Like this isn't how it's supposed to be. But then also no fans, and it just felt weird, because we as a whole, we weren't sports starved by that point. So I don't think it's going to be like UFC Brazil. I honestly think the ESPN, the prelim card, maybe 1.5, 1.8 million viewers. Like I think it's going to do pretty damn big numbers. Especially the free portion. But I think for the pay-per-view portion, I'm going to shoot below that. I think it's going to be under. I think probably 350, maybe 400, 450. 350 to 450 is going to be our range there. But I think it's going to just miss out on the 500K range. I just think, getting people to buy a pay-per-view right now is going to be really, really hard. And this card's phenomenal, but it's not Conor. It's not Jorge. It's not Khabib. It's not that stuff. So I'm going to go under 500,000, but just barely. Angel, you ready for more MMA previews?
Oh boy, I thought we were almost done.
All right, UFC on ESPN 9 is happening Wednesday. Considering we always film this on like a Friday or a Saturday or a Thursday, we won't be able to preview it. However, we're gonna preview it right now, because they're having a Wednesday show, because they're trying to cram all these in, because they've missed a lot of time. This fight card, I actually like this one a lot. It's kind of like a low-key card happening in the middle of the week. Very strange timing. But Anthony Smith, Glover Teixeira in the main event. This fight I like a lot. I think it's certainly a fight to get the winner back into contention at light heavyweight. I think Anthony, last time out, he beat Alexander Gustafsson. He retired Gus. Before that, he lost to Jones, and that one was a tough loss for him. I had a lot of high hopes going into them for that one. I thought he would, at the very least, I thought he'd give it his all. Thought he'd go balls to the wall trying to get the finish. Ultimately, that did not happen. Glover Teixeira, on the other hand, we thought he was done, bro. For a long time, I feel like nobody talks about it, but Glover Teixeira, he should be done right now. He should at the very least be out of contention. But nonetheless, this man, who I think is 40 or 41, he's up there in his late 30s, and he's on a 3-fight winning streak. He's trying to get into that contention, and I don't think he is. I'm going to take Anthony Smith here via a finish, but I think there's a lot of potential here for the winner to kind of elevate themselves into that conversation of being like a contender again.
No, you're right, for sure. I mean, they're all on. I mean, Anthony Smith, not on a win streak at this time, lost to, Thiago Santos, who, fought for that belt and maybe could have arguably won that fight. Lost to Jones. And I mean, in between that, though, there's just victories for Anthony Smith. I mean, he just lost to those two guys. And I mean, we're talking about the two guys who were, the very top, and then beat Gus. And then Gus, kind of abruptly kind of retiring in that moment. Kind of very sad moment in the UFC. Probably one of the saddest moments I've seen when it comes to retirement in my time watching. And I mean, Anthony Smith just fought off a home invader. What a fucking warrior, my guy.
Yeah, guy was on P2.
He was on everything. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if he was on everything. But, and then, dude, Teixeira, man, that's a bad man. Still old as fuck, but still kicking it. He's still here. I mean, it's happened, man. We've had guys, up there in age get that belt. I mean, back in the day, you know, early, kind of mid 2000s, and that, what was it? Who was it back then?
Couture.
Yeah, Randy Couture beat Tito, right? Was it Tito or Liddell? I can't remember. He beat both though. He beat
Everybody.
both at one. He
He
beat
beat
both at one.
both. He
He
beat
beat
Tim
both.
Sylvia. He beat everybody.
So
Old man
is
Couture.
yeah, anything's possible, man.
Anything is possible.
So let's not take it at a probability or in question in reality. But I'm taking Anthony Smith.
Yeah. I'm a big Anthony Smith guy. I think I love his move to light heavyweight. I like that guy. Anyways, the co-main event, one of the weirder ones that I've seen in a long time. Ben Rothwell, Vince St. Preux. That's what's going down, man. Ben Rothwell, obviously, he's been a veteran. He's 38 now, been around in the game for a long time. He was looking like he was going to get into title contention because he won like 4 fights in a row. Beat Brandon Vera, Alistair Overeem, Matt Mitrione, Josh Barnett, and then he was facing JDS in 2016, and then he lost. He lost badly, and that kind of sent him down to the bottom of the queue. He tested positive after that. Since coming back, he's had some really unimpressive fights. Blagoy Evanoff he lost to. Andrei Arlovsky pieced him up, man. That was a damn good performance by Arlovsky. I remember that fight. He put it on that boy. Shout out Arlovsky. But anyways, and then Rothwell, he beat Stefan Struve in what was a really disappointing fight for me personally. Struve was putting the work on him, and then he got low blowed, I believe, 2 or 3 times. And the referee convinced him to continue, and then Rothwell just immediately finished him, considering he had been hit in his dick 3 times. No points were taken, by the way. So that one was a bad one, but nonetheless, Ben Rothwell, he's a veteran of the game. He's taking on Vincent St. Preux, who I don't know if he's ever fought at heavyweight before, but he's a pretty decently sized light heavyweight. He has the size. He's like 6'4", I think. He has an 80-inch reach. And I don't know. I like Vince a lot. I think he's going to have the speed advantage. I think he's going to go in there, and I think he's going to put on a kind of a workman-like performance. I think he's going to stay on the outside. He's not going to allow himself to get in that position where he can get knocked out. Maybe he'll even grapple with Rothwell. I think he'll have a good advantage there. I think he's going to be faster. I think he's going to stay on the outside. I think he's going to get the win. Who do you got in the co-main of this strange card?
I got OSP, but that is such a weird fight in and of itself. I mean, both those guys are not like doing very well. Which I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense because then you can eliminate the guys who are not doing better, So, there you go.
Yeah, it's like, I think I said it on Twitter whenever it first got announced, but it's like if you play UFC 3 and you go into the option where it's like all weight classes or whatever, and you just hit random for both guys, that's what that fight is. But if you were to kind of pick out one fight from the undercard, like I think there's a lot to like here, but if you just pick out one fight from the undercard, not really the undercard, but anything outside of the main and co-main to talk about, like what to kind of pick that one out, what would that one be?
I'd probably do Ricky Simone and Ray Borg.
I do like that fight a lot. I like
that's a good fight. I think that's a big one for Ricky. After the 2 losses, I mean, he was killing it before those. He had lost 1 fight before that, but I mean, I can't hate on him. He lost to Faber in his return, and I mean, I predicted that loss. Even though
nice flex there, bro.
I know I did. Hey man, that was his comeback fight, and some people didn't think he'd win that. I thought he would.
Yeah, I thought I picked him to lose. I was a giant Ricky Simone guy.
Yeah, and we still should be. I mean, there's still something there. But then he lost to Rob. Rob after that, and this is kind of a big one for him now, especially since he lost in the first round of Uriah. No hate though, he lost to Uriah Faber. I mean, a fucking legend in his own right. So hopefully, for sake of Ricky, hopefully he can, kind of get back on that win streak, get back, and going into hopefully one day being in contention. But he's facing Ray Borg, which is also another tough opponent in his own right.
Yeah, Ray Borg's on it. He's on a nice winning streak right now too. I think he's won 2 or 3 in a row. Like Ray Borg's, he's a bad motherfucker. People forget because he misses weight all the time. Ray Borg's got he's got some hands. He's got great wrestling. He really mixes it up really well. Like I like me some Ray Borg, bro.
Oh yeah.
His last time out, he was that was a dominant performance. I remember. He should probably be riding a 3-fight winning streak. Remember, Casey Kenny, he fought at bantamweight, and I'm pretty sure everybody thought he won that one. Like that was like the general consensus. Then he's won 2 in a row, both decisions, that were pretty damn dominant. That was a good fight. It was hard for me to pick here, but I'm gonna say Alexander Hernandez, Drew Dober is gonna be a banger. And Alexander Hernandez, before he lost to Cowboy, we were looking at him like he had he still does have a lot of potential. He's still only 11-2. Knocked out Beneil Dariush, who is looking phenomenal as of late. He beat the Canadian gangster Olivier Aubin-Mercier, and then he beat Francisco Trinaldo at UFC. I believe that was San Antonio last year. He's been off since then. Taking on Drew Dober. Drew Dober is a bad motherfucker. He's one of the most overlooked guys in that division, and I get it because it's such a stacked division. But dude, like, there's some bad. Like he has some amazing wins. Just off the top of it, like he lost to Olivier Aubin-Mercier, who obviously Hernandez beat, and that was in 2016. Since then, he knocked out Josh Berkman. He beat Frank Camacho, who's another really fun guy. He beat John Tuck. He lost to Beneil Dariush. That's a tough loss right there. Also, another guy that Hernandez has beat. But he knocked out Marco Polo Reyes, and then he knocked out Nasrat Hakparast, who is one of the greatest prospects at that weight class. He's mini Kelvin Gastelum, the guy who looks just like him. If you guys want to Google Nasrat Hakparast, he was undefeated in the UFC before that. Actually, never mind. He lost to Marcin Held, but whatever. He was looking really great before that, and Drew Dober just turned his lights out. So I think that one's going to be a banger. I'm going to take Alexander Hernandez there, but that one's going to be a fun one. That card is low-key really fun just looking at it. Chase Sherman's back in the UFC for that one. Michael Johnson, Thiago Moises, Andre Arlovsky, Felipe Lins is another one that you guys should be watching, man. Andre Arlovsky, obviously, we know he's had a rough go as of late, but Felipe Lins, bad. He's a bad man. He left Bellator. He was not the most impressive guy. I think it was him. I don't remember his record, but wasn't that great. And then in the PFL, he won their heavyweight tournament. He looked damn good in it, and that's in the UFC. So, yeah, that goes pretty much as far as our predictions and preview will go. But that being said, we still have a little bit of stuff to talk about boxing news-wise. Alexander Povetkin, Dillian White for I believe the WBC interim heavyweight strap is still to go ahead. This is the first real news we have for a relatively big boxing match. July the 4th in the Manchester Arena, I believe. That one's still a go. No crowd. Eddie Hearn announced it, but we're still a go. I mean, what's your excitement level for that one? Because that one's going to be an amazing fight when it comes around.
Good for him. Good for Povetkin. But we saw in that Michael Hunter fight, dude. I think his age is starting to show. Michael Hunter gave him a hard time, and I feel like a younger Povetkin does not have that hard of a time against Michael Hunter. No hate to Michael Hunter. He had a great performance. He looked amazing. Hopefully he carries that same energy in his, future bouts. But I thought for Povetkin, it was a bit, kind of lacking. It ended in a draw, and it was a great match. I mean, absolute entertainment. I mean, that's what we want out of boxing. I feel like if someone gets ran over, it kind of ruins it. I mean, and even then at times, and I mean, we still find that entertaining when someone gets ran over. But who doesn't enjoy a good competitive back and forth fight? Who we don't know who's gonna win, and that was really competitive. But now we have Dillian White back, and that's a scary, scary man. I think Povetkin's gonna have some trouble. Kind of looking forward. Not doing any preview or anything, but just kind of saying that.
Yeah, we can do like a preview whenever it comes time, But I think I agree. I think his age is really, really showing. That one was a disappointment. And I get it. Like he's old, like he's older, man. But I think this fight specifically, I think it's gonna bring the best out of him. I think this is gonna be a firefight, and I rate Dillian White pretty highly too. I think he's got some of the best power in a division with dudes that are just knocking guys dead. I think he has some of the best power in that division. I like him a lot. He should be getting this title shot. Like, people bring up, like, where's Dillian White getting his title shot? Like, everything's tied up right now with the big three. So I think this is about as good as it gets. A former champion in his own right, Povetkin, who, that one's going to be a fun one. I think that's going to be on a British pay-per-view. I'm not sure how that's going to be broadcast in the States. But I love that fight. I'm glad it's going ahead, even with no crowd. Yeah, man, that's going to be fun. Two more bits of boxing news. Discussion is supposedly underway for Joshua Fury in Saudi Arabia, in potentially December. Now, this would obviously require Pulev and Wilder to step aside, which they both said repeatedly they will not do. This isn't really a question of if you want to see it next. This is kind of a question of, do you think they're getting into a bit of like legal like repercussions? Because I saw somebody bring up they have contractually obligated fights. Both Joshua and Fury do currently. Bouts that are signed. There are contracts involved. Do you think Wilder and potentially Pulev can like get pissed off and try and sue him over this?
I'm sure there's some sort of way, yeah, 110%. There's definitely some way they could probably do that. I mean, the contracts are legit. I mean, these guys have, amazing lawyers. I'm sure that they can't get around this even if they want to. And if they do, there's gonna be a massive loss and money lost. So, and I mean, plus that, I mean, for our entertainment, let's put this out more. You know what I mean? The Brits can wait.
Would you rather see Pulev Joshua and Wilder Fury 3 next, or would you rather just skip to Joshua Fury?
No, I definitely like to see that because I feel like Fury Joshua could still happen. I feel like you could still give time for Joshua to continue to grow because I feel like he's still growing. I feel like we saw that in that Andy Ruiz fight. He's still growing. He's still improving. He's still learning. And let him fight another top opponent. Let him fight Pulev. I mean, Pulev's a scary man. Let's see what he does. Let's see if he's still carrying that same energy. And let the man challenge himself and continue to fight and defend his title. I mean, he's the champion. He's back in that number one guy. I mean, is he the number one? Is he above Fury? Is he above Wilder? I feel like there's people who really highly rate him, and there's people who really don't have too much faith in him. Prior to the Wilder loss, people thought Wilder would absolutely starch Joshua, and then people still think, and then people think Fury would just completely just outbox the hell out of Joshua and run circles around him. I think now after coming back from Andy, people were roasting him or making fun of him, losing him, but hey, he got caught, he lost, and it happens. He fights in heavyweight. It's happened to the best. And I mean, I feel like there's nothing to be embarrassed about there because I mean, even Wilder lost. Wilder lost to Fury. So yeah, I think you should take you should definitely go defend his title with Pulev. Let that big money fight come around. It's gonna happen. But the box, people want to see you box, so box because you still always have that in that back pocket for you. That fight will happen eventually. But also, these guys are under contract, so I mean, I think that has to be respected more than anything. In my opinion.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same idea. They should roll with the fights that have already been signed. Not only because they'll be sued otherwise and be brought to court, but because I think if there's one thing that heavyweight boxing has shown, specifically over the last year and a half, anything can happen. And I don't want to hear that, let's just skip to Joshua Fury, the Wilder and Pulev have no chance. I'm like, man, Pulev's been around in this game too long to get such little respect. Pulev has been around in this game for a long time. He's shown, I don't think he beats Joshua, but guess what? The man deserves his right to try. He's been the mandatory for a long time now. And then Wilder was, what was he, 42-0? The man deserves the right to get that title, at least try and get that title back. I mean, he defended it 10 times. He was the only guy to give Fury a shot whenever Fury was kind of back on the comeback trail, because Joshua didn't want to give him that fight. And he's like, I'll go ahead and try and I'll give Fury that fight. And that's something I appreciate because he could have just, not dealt with it. He could have faced his mandatories. That surely would have been the easier fight. Instead, he faced Fury. He lost that fight. He lost his belt. He deserves that right to a third fight. I mean, that's what's signed. That's what should happen. So that's how I think they should go about it, man. Like I want to see Joshua Fury as much as the next man, but I also want to see those two fights that were already signed. I think Pulev poses some interesting challenges, and I think we've all seen that Wilder could potentially put Fury out. I mean, he literally did the first time in the first fight. So, um,
And plus
yeah,
that, who
man, I
doesn't
think
love a
that's
good trilogy?
seriously. I mean, come on, trilogies are such a rare thing. Like, let's see it. Trilogies in boxing, MMA, they're so freaking rare. You know, we get to see people fight twice. That's nothing original, but a trilogy. Now we're getting historical territory. Fuck it, we'll do it 4 times. Let's Pacquiao Marquez this shit, bro. Let's do it. Um,
Yeah.
Jokes aside, yeah, that's how I think they should go about it. The last boxing thing is not actually a topic on our list, but it's something I got reminded of literally before the show started because I forgot to put it on there. Mike Tyson is apparently coming out of retirement to do exhibition 4-round fights. 2 questions. 1, are you interested at all? And 2, who would his ideal opponent be for this?
Dude, I've seen so many names, so many organizations thrown out there. I don't give a fuck. It's probably not a good thing for Mike. You know, he's kind of said it in the past. He doesn't like working out too much. He doesn't really do anything. He doesn't want to unleash that side of him anymore. I listen to his podcast. He's a pretty mellow guy now. He's really level-headed. He's kind of improved his mindset.
Smokes lots of weed.
Yeah, he's a lot happier with life. He said it took him a long time to get that. I mean, we're talking about, arguably the baddest man on earth, for a long time. And some people still see him. People inspire this man. I mean, this is, Tyson Fury was named after Mike Tyson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is not a joke. I mean, he's talked about it. He went on his podcast. He loves this guy. He idolizes this guy. When he spoke to him, you can tell he was, infatuated and was in awe of his presence. And not even just that. I mean, he's had other guys on there. He had Kamaru on there. He had Cejudo on there. When he speaks to these people, you can tell these people are kind of like, holy shit, I'm really in this room with Mike Tyson right now. Like, and that comes to anybody. I don't think you really have to be like a major boxing fan because there's so many people who are aware of Mike Tyson's career. I mean, this man partied with Steve-O and smoked a cocaine cigarette in his bathroom. Like, this man is extremely beloved by many groups and is so fucking dangerous. And it was the heavyweight champion of the world at 19 years old. People love this man, and I love him too.
So who do you think his ideal opponent should be? Because, I mean, he said he's going to do it, but, like, if you were to pick one guy, remember, it's an exhibition, so it doesn't count towards anything. It'd be 4 rounds for charity.
Shit, I mean, if they could find... Well... Oh, boy, who would we do? Something... Let's go back to the early 2000s. That super rumored Roy Jones Jr. fight versus Mike. Let's make it happen.
Oh, my heart.
It's only 4.
My God.
We know Roy can put on the weight real quick. It's no big deal. So let's make it happen.
That's the one that we lost. That's the fight. I think a lot like okay, I am firmly on the camp of Roy Jones Jr. in his prime was the greatest boxer of all time. Like, I'm not sure if that's the primary opinion. I know that he's up there, and I know his later career stuff kind of, put him down the ranks for a lot of people. Not for me. In his prime, nobody could be a Roy Jones Jr. Not at that weight, not at that kind of light heavyweight kind of point in his career. I think nobody could beat him. And after he beat John Ruiz, who, I've seen people try and degrade John Ruiz. Like, he wasn't that good. He went up because he knew he could beat him. I'm like, come on, bro. John Ruiz was the heavyweight champion of the world, regardless of whether or not you think he was good. Like, it was like the peak of the 90s or whatever, whenever everybody was fighting. He was still the heavyweight champion of the world at that time. And Roy Jones Jr., I think he took 10 rounds against him. He just danced around him. And then after that, there was the rumored, that he was in negotiations to fight Mike. That never ended up happening. He never ended up fighting at heavyweight again. He went back to light heavyweight, and it pretty much ruined his career because he cut so much weight. He was fluctuating between weight classes so much. His body just got broken down, and he peaked a lot sooner than he probably should have. But anyways, yeah, Roy Jones is a good shout. I don't care that he's doing this like so many other people have. I did a piece for KCHI Press talking about like what are the dangers of actually fighting and talking about people that have actually fought into their 50s and how well it goes. But Tyson's not actually fighting. He's going to be doing an exhibition for charity. Evander Holyfield's the one for me. Him
Well,
and
you know
Evander
something?
are
I got
actually,
another one here in a second.
yeah, all right, all right. Evander and him are actually pretty cool now, which is I like to see that. He went on this podcast. You brought up his podcast. His podcast is fucking phenomenal. People
I
really
love
need
it.
to listen to it. Him and Evander are pretty cool now, and I saw Evander released a video saying he would be cool doing an exhibition for charity. So that one's the one you got to do.
Oh boy. Or you know, we could. You know, there's another man who would literally fight anybody at this point because he wants to get back into the fight scene. And with me saying that, I think you know who I'm saying, Josh. He's saying Shannon the Cannon Bread. Let's go, champ. Let's go, champ. Let's go, champ. Shannon the Cannon Briggs, man. He wants it. He wants the comeback.
Future BKFC champion of the world, Shannon the Cannon.
Maybe that could be Shannon's opponent right there because they've talked about potentially having Mike to do a bare knuckle match. You know, Shannon the Cannon Briggs is not afraid to take no challenge.
Well, I'm not sure if you saw this, but BKFC officially offered Mike $20 million
That's so much fucking money.
to fight. But then again, I feel like if Mike wanted to do an actual competition, he probably could have gotten more.
110%.
He could probably get 50 million if he just wanted to fight.
If he really pushed for it, yes, probably.
Like if he were to come back and actually box, he would be the biggest name. Like there's no question about it. Because like other guys like, you know, Wilder, Fury, Pacquiao, they're big names. So Mike Tyson's he's a living legend.
That's a global icon.
He's a global icon. You ask people, like I was thinking about this the other day. What's the closest part like
I thought about this, funny enough. If you're going to talk about like people you can talk about, athletes you can say their name any part of the world and people know who that is.
Exactly what I'm talking about. Because I partially got inspired by the Jordan documentary because everybody knows who Michael Jordan is. Everybody knows who Mike Tyson is. Everyone.
Yep. No matter where you are in the world, I feel like those are some like I feel like there's few names you can say like I'm talking everywhere in the world, like you know, like Messi, Ronaldo, you know, Jordan, Ali, and Tyson. Like those are names that you could probably say in any part of the world, and people know who you're talking about.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what country it is. You can probably say those names, and people will know who you're talking about.
But who, like, in terms of, like, popularity, I don't see any boxer for a long time overshadowing Mike. Like, as much as, like, Floyd is a huge star, but I feel like even Mike's a bigger star than Floyd.
Oh, 100%, man. 100%. And the thing is, I mean, and for Floyd, it will always be his downside and his upside will always be his style. You know what I mean? People love him because he won. But people don't love him because he was so boring to fucking watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why whenever like we had that Pacquiao fight, which like everybody was watching, a lot of people hated it. They really hated it because they weren't used to Floyd's style, and that was the most eyes he's ever had on him.
But then there's people who don't know anything about boxing and fucking love Floyd, like if they were his
and they
father.
loved that Conor fight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I don't have a problem with Mike Tyson coming back to do exhibitions. I know a lot of people were kind of shitting on him, saying like, "Why would he do that?" Like, people don't understand. An exhibition is different than an actual fight. An exhibition can sometimes just be like the Floyd Tenshin Nasukawa exhibition in Japan was a bit different because Tenshin was actually going out there to fucking fight him, and they had an actual fight inside that one round, and Floyd ragged him. Most times exhibitions they just go to the distance. Dude, just do some flashy stuff for the crowd. Mike won't actually be in any real danger. But I think having him and Evander one like a third time in an exhibition sounds baller to me.
That'd be cool. And the beef. No, I'm just kidding. They already ended the beef.
Yeah, them on the podcast was phenomenal. Phenomenal. You guys should go listen to that one.
Man, I'm sorry, man. That's okay.
The final topic to end this show, the longest one in a long time. KBO Baseball is officially airing on ESPN. Angel, we both know you're watching. Why is your favorite team the NC Dinos, and why?
No, I have not seen this, but I did see your tweet about this, or either your Facebook post.
Yes, the NC Dinos. I really just wanted a reason to bring it up. The NC Dinos are a team that has a breakdancing dinosaur as their mascot. How can I root against that? Jokes aside, I've watched 2 of their games so far.
And you're already a big fan.
I'm a huge fan, and the biggest fan. Um, Jokes aside, I'm seeing a lot of people talking about it on Twitter, and I saw Pat McAfee, who's a really good podcast, former NFL player, and he was talking about it. There's legitimate excitement about KBO baseball because it's on ESPN, which I think is the funniest thing.
It's all good though. MMA's back.
It's all good, bro. MMA's back. The excitement over the Last Dance and KBO baseball, that is going to pale in comparison to UFC 249 happening this Saturday night. Thank you guys for listening as always. I'm at Josh Evanoff on Twitter. He's at AngelTega_01. Courtside Soundoff on Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, anywhere you can find a podcast. You can find us, the Instagram account, the Facebook account, Twitter account, which we update the most, being the Twitter. Thank you guys for listening as always. Peace and butt grease. Mouse click.